Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the space where we say that I can sleep. If you are listening to this via regularly scheduled programming, hello, hello. And if you are listening to this via early access, hello. See, we are about midway through October, and I hope wherever you guys are, the weather is faring much better. We are finally getting cooler weather, and it's finally feeling like fall. Lately it's been feeling like either just straight summer or straight winter, and I am hating it with every fiber of my being. But anyways, that's not why you're here. You're here to hear me read, so we shall get on with it right now. No more lollygagging. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Oh my god, that's such an old phrasing. Anyways, if you are enjoying these readings and would like for me to continue doing these readings, you can support me on my platforms like Patreon, officially I Can Win, where you get exclusive content like sneak peeks, unreleased stuff from like Instagram, TikTok. You get early access, raw, unedited recordings, and maybe even little photo dumps, selfies stuff I would never post on my usual platforms. You can like, leave comments, share my content, and you can also follow me on YouTube and Spotify at iKenSleep, and TikTok and Instagram at officially.ikenwin. Now let us begin our 49th ascension into heaven official's blessing. Stew of the Good Crown Prince to welcome unexpected guests. Shilian had planned to show off his culinary skills, but after this evening's events, his confidence had risen and plunged in equal measure. Hua Cheng suggested he make dinner instead, but how could Shilian have the face to ask him to cook after Hua Cheng had already fixed his door and cleaned his shrine? Who in their right mind would treat their guest this way? And furthermore, who did he take an esteemed Supreme Ghost King for? Fortunately, he'd brought plenty of supplies back from town. While a large portion had gone into Shilian's pot, some buns and pies still remained, as well as fruits and vegetables, so they munched on what they had. But after those were eaten, what then? The next day, the problem was solved on its own. Bright and early in the morning, the door of Puchi's shrine rattled with the knocking of a gaggle of village girls who had come offering several large pots of congee and a roasted chicken. The village girls were shy and nervous, so who they'd really come to see was quite obvious. Shilian couldn't help but sigh in awe as he thought, beauty really can fill a stomach. The roasted chicken was divided between the two children. Shilian only had some congee, while Hua Cheng didn't touch a thing. Guga is quite popular around here, Hua Cheng commented with a smile. Don't tease me, Sunlun, Shilian laughed. They were obviously drunk, but not on wine. After Qirong took the contents of that bowl down his throat yesterday, he suffered and struggled outside the shrine the entire night, wailing non-stop and yelling things along the lines of, I'd rather be captured by Lang Qinqiu and butchered into a million pieces than be stuck here and fed your poison. Cousin Crown Prince, I was wrong. Please, I beg you, give me the antidote. As the night went on, it seemed that he eventually started hallucinating and became delusional. Little Gushi was horrified as he listened. By early morning, Qirong was shriveled and drained, his face completely ashen. Only after he slurped a bit of congee from Gushi's cupped palm did he finally regain some strength. Popular my ass! Who the hell would come for him? He croaked with a broken voice. Look at that shabby appearance. And don't you be so full of yourself, Hua Cheng, you fucker. At most, you could only attract bumpkin chicks from backwater towns like these. They only came simpering along because you're dressed so extravagantly. If you dressed the part of a beggar, I doubt they'd spare you a glance. Shilian thought that wasn't right at all. Even if Huachang dressed like a pauper, he would surely collect a mountain of gold should he go begging. Still, he said nothing and started leisurely doing chores. After a while, another wave of smells wafted outside, and Chirong roared out curses anew. What are you doing? What the hell? It's that pot of love for all seasons still, Shilin replied warmly. I'm heating it up. Huachang applauded quietly at this. What a good name. Chirong screeched. You gave that fucking shit a name? Stop! The mere smell of the reheating brew made Chirong recall memories most terrifying. So there wasn't really a need to feed him. Chirong didn't dare speak another word. Once the meal was finished, Lang Ying quietly collected the cutlery, seeming like he intended to do the dishes. Let it be, Shilian chided him. Just go play. I can take care of this. Maybe he wasn't allowed to cook, but he could still do dishes. Huachang watched Lang Ying take Gushi outside. Let me do that for you, Huachang said. Shilian declined the offer. There is even less reason for you to trouble yourself. Just sit. As he spoke, they heard a ruckus outside. Chirong had gotten bored with nothing to do after filling his stomach, and he'd started catcalling. Hey, chickie. What are you doing? Checking me out? Chirong cooed greasily. Did I make your tender little heart quiver? He'd just been griping about how he didn't care for country girls, only to turn around and start flirting. And so tastelessly, too. Shilian shook his head, thinking it would be best to drag Chirong inside after all, lest he scare people while tied up out there. Before he even opened the door, he heard odd comments from the villagers. Whoa! What legendary beauties! Why would such beautiful girls come to our village? I've never seen such pretty ladies, not in my whole life. And there's 2 of them. Soon after, there was the sound of knocking, and it surprisingly came upon the door of Puchi's shrine. Shilian was puzzled. Legendary beauties? 2 of them? Why would 2 legendary beauties come knocking on my door? Shilian then realized. Could it be... Did that wealthy merchant get some new wives and bring them to show their gratitude? Thinking that this could very well be the case, Shilin quickly grabbed the "Please donate to help with renovations of this shrine" sign, ready to set it outside. But he then heard one of the women speak in a frosty tone. What's this thing at the door? What an eyesore. Immediately, the puzzled voice of another woman followed. Maybe it's for guarding the door? No way. No one would ever have a reason to sink so low, to use such a vulgar spiritual beast. Although they were women's voices, Shilin had heard them before. It was Windmaster Qing Xuan and Earthmaster Yi. At first, he wanted to open the door. Then he whipped his head around to look at Huachang, who was languidly cleaning up the altar table behind him. Shilin stopped his hands, cautiously peeking out the door's crack instead. Outside the door stood 2 tall, slender women. One was a white-robed Taoist priestess with a whisk in hand, her lips rosy, her eyes bright, her form sensually graceful. The other was a woman clad in black, her skin snow white, and her face beautifully sharp. She wore an upset expression as she glowered into the distance, her hands folded behind her back. The white-robed Taoist priestess had a face full of smiles, cupping her hands to salute her thanks to all around. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. No need to compliment us so much. No need to make such a scene. It gets me all flustered when you fuss over me. That's enough now, thank you. Shilian said no words. A large, tightly packed crowd of beauty-watching villagers was outside, and once they were done looking at the beauties, they started pointing and jeering at Qirong, to the latter's great displeasure. "What are you all looking at?" he screamed maniacally. "So what if this ancestor likes lying on the ground? Fuck off! There's nothing to see here." When the villagers saw how bizarrely the man behaved, how fiendish he looked with that sickly green face, they dispersed in a fright. Shi Qingxuan looked Qirong over. "This, green gongxi, pray tell, is His Highness the Crown Prince inside the shrine?" Hearing her address Shilian as His Highness the Crown Prince, Qirong immediately lost interest in the two beautiful women before him. He clicked his tongue. "So you're some goddamn officials from the upper court. As if this ancestor is a dog guarding his door. Listen here, I am..." He hadn't finished his introduction before Ming Yi glumly approached. There was a wail, followed by sounds of smacking. From Shilian's position, he couldn't discern exactly what Ming Yi was doing, and could only see Shi Qingxuan sweeping her whisk as she chided her companion. "Mingshong, it's not good to use violence." "What's there to be afraid of?" Ming Yi asked coolly. "Didn't he say he's not a domesticated spiritual beast?" To prevent Qirong from getting beaten to death, Shilian had no choice but to open the door. He raised his hands to stop Ming Yi. "My lord, have mercy, don't hit him. He's a person." When Qi Qingxuan opened the door, Ming Yi flipped away her black hem and removed her boot from Qirong's back. Shi Qingxuan cupped her hands in courtesy. "Your Highness, I've come a few days early. What's with this person? He's so full of ghost qi that it's impossible to hide. Do you take us for blind?" Shi Qingxuan changed the subject. "Anyway, let's talk inside. I've something really important I need your help with." She made her way around Qirong's prone body as she spoke and was about to cross the threshold, but Hua Cheng was still inside. How could Shilian possibly let them in? "Wait!" he cried hastily. However, it was too late. Puchi's shrine was only so big, and it had no places to hide. Shi Qingxuan and Ming Yi immediately saw that behind Shilian there stood a supreme ghost king, who was in the middle of doing dishes. 4 pairs of eyes met. Sparks flew. Hua Cheng smiled a smile that showed his teeth. The smile was ominous, and his eyes held no trace of mirth. In an instant, Ming Yi's pupils shrank, and she backed a meter away. Exceedingly alarmed, Shi Qingxuan flung out her Windmaster fan to strike an attacking stance. "Crimson Rain sought flower!" Outside the door, the ashen-faced Qirong roared with rage. "And I'm the Knight touring Green Lantern! How come none of you recognized me when kicking the shit out of me, but you knew it was him with just one look?" Ming Yi had infiltrated Ghost City and spent many years as a spy under Hua Cheng. Only recently had she been discovered and captured, and subsequently locked in a labyrinthine dungeon and beaten to a pulp. Now the two enemies faced each other once more, their eyes bloodshot. Tiny little Puchi Shrine was filled with the scent of venom inside and out. Hua Chang lightly tossed the rag in his hand and smirked. Lord Earthmaster looks lively. And Lord Ghost King looks leisurely as always, Mingyi replied coldly. After exchanging these false perfunctory greetings, the next words that came out of Hua Chang's mouth were even colder, and his expression turned positively glacial. Leave, he warned. I don't care what important business you have. Do not come anywhere near here again. Although Mingyi feared Hua Chang, he refused to back down without a fight. She responded, her tone gravely serious. Coming here was not my will. The venom was turning explosive, and Shilian grew nervous next to them. What? Lord Windmaster, what should we do? Shi Qingxuan knocked her fan on her head a few times. I didn't expect Crimson Rain Softflower to be here, she sighed. Didn't you guys just meet up recently? How come you're pulling around again so soon? Anyways, it'd be great if this could be solved without throwing fists. Violence is bad. If they start fighting, we'll have to hold them back. Shilian replied. I agree, mostly. Qirong had been listening intently, as he was hoping the pair would start brawling. When he heard this, he suddenly spoke up. Oh, so you're that tramp, Windmaster? Both Shilian and Shi Qingxuan turned to look at him. That was exactly how Qirong had referred to Shi Qingxuan when he was lounging in his cave. But he'd dare address her like that? Even in front of the lady herself? Shilian couldn't decide whether it stemmed from an excess of bravery or a deficit of intelligence. Shi Qingxuan had always been raised in dignified grace, so this was probably the first time she'd ever heard such an insult. She blinked, looking confused, then turned to Shilian. Your Highness, please wait. Then she exited the shrine and closed the door. Outside, there was a shriek from Qirong and another bout of smacking noises. A moment later, Shi Qingxuan opened the door to come back in. He had returned to his male form. All right, where were we? I'm feeling kind of hungry, so how about we all sit down and eat something? He declared. There's nothing that can't be negotiated and nothing that can't be solved at the dinner table. Shilian didn't want anyone to start fighting inside Puqi's shrine, but Hua Chang seemed extremely angry over the matter of Mingyi's infiltration. Without knowing the inside story, it seemed rather impossible to have them sit down and share a peaceful meal. However, Hua Chang actually didn't seem to object to the idea. After a long moment, the frost in his expression cleared, and he turned to continue doing dishes. Once he finished, he walked to the pot and ladled a full bowl of that love for all seasons stew. As he withdrew and thereby put a stop to the imminent battle, the rest sighed a breath of relief. The next step was to change the subject and liven the mood. So, Shi Qingxuan asked, Your Highness, what's in that pot? It seems to still be hot. Oh, I made that, Shilian said. The pot had been stewing for a long time. The flavors were completely soaked in, and most of the smell had dissipated. Although the color was questionable, the shapes had all but melted away, and it looked so much better than it had the night before. Shi Qingxuan vibrated with excitement when he heard this reply. Really? I've never eaten anything prepared by the hands of a heavenly official. Come, let's have a taste. He grabbed some spoons and filled 2 bowls. Shilian wanted to stop him, to be honest, but Hua Chang had been so consistently encouraging, burying seeds of confidence within him. Also, earlier that morning as he heated the stew, he changed the preparation according to Hua Chang's suggestions. A thought surfaced in his mind. Perhaps I saved it. After some hesitation, he decided not to say anything. He watched with secret anticipation as Shi Qingxuan passed one of the bowls to Ming Yi. Come, Mingxiong, this one's yours. Ming Yi took a look at the contents of the bowl, then turned her face away, looking wholly unwilling. It was a little rude. Shi Qingxuan was enraged and unrelentingly forced the bowl in her face. Eat! Didn't you say you were hungry on the road earlier? Huachang lazily raised a spoonful and blew on it. He brought it to his lips, then swallowed, and smiled at Shilian. It's definitely milder today. The flavor's just right. Shilian smiled too. Really? I added more water today. Huachang took another bite and beamed. Gaga did his best. Huachang behaved as though he were tasting some delicious delicacy, and he was incredibly convincing to behold. A moment later, Ming Yi took the bowl after all. Shi Qingxuan smiled. That's better. The pair spooned mouthfuls of the stew at the same time and swallowed them down.